Okay, hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Mosab Awadelkareem from the Sudanese Researchers Foundation, and I'm very pleased to welcome you all to Trend SRF webinar series. We in SRF co-organize this webinar series in collaboration with Trend in Africa. Trend in Africa is a non-governmental organization dedicated to science education and science capacity building in Africa. Today, we are very fortunate to be joined by Professor Marta Dávila, who is going to talk about finding help from mentors and creating a network. I'm very pleased also to be joined by Dr. Anwar Dafa-Alla from the Sudanese Researchers Foundation. He's the founder of the Sudanese Researchers Foundation, and he's an assistant professor of computer science in many universities here in Sudan. I'm also here with Maha Dahawi from the Faculty of Medicine, University of Khartoum, and also Inas Ahmed Elsayed from the Faculty of Pharmacy, University of Gezira in Sudan. Now I'm going to introduce Professor Marta quickly. Marta is an associate professor at the Department of Pharmacology, College of Medicine, Howard University in the US. She received her master's degree and PhD degree in neuroscience from New York University in the US. She has over 30 years of experience as a neuroscientist, studying the effects of nicotine in brain and peripheral system. She has trained high school undergraduates, graduate students, medical students, and postdoctoral fellows in her laboratory, either working directly under her supervision or with other faculty. She has been a dissertation mentor to 5 PhD pharmacology students, and she has mentored 5 postdoctoral fellows. So she is uniquely equipped to talk about this topic. Before we get started, I just would like to remind our audience that this webinar is designed to be interactive, and they can ask as many questions as they want by simply typing their questions in the event page on Facebook or in the comment section of this YouTube live streaming. And the speaker will respond to their questions during the Q&A session at the end of this webinar. Marta, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today. And now I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mosab. It is absolutely a pleasure to be here with you today and to share some of my pearls of wisdom, as I have actually been not just a mentor, but a mentee for many, many, many years. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about why it is important to have mentors, and then I'm going to move on to talking about networks. And both of those things are actually very much connected to how people are going to be able to develop their careers in science. So I just want to say that I have no conflict of interest and that these are my objectives. I'm just going to pass on to those. So one of the important things when you become a scientist is that you really want to be part of the team. You want to be in the room where everything happens. You want to be part of the conversation. And how do you get there? You always look at your professors and your postdocs and people above you as though they are high up in a different room than you, and you want to be a part of that, and yet you don't have the skills or the knowledge or the self-esteem or the self-awareness of how to actually get there. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about how to do that. So the very first thing is that the world of science is complex. There are many different routes that you can take once you decide that that's the path that you're going to be leading. And therefore, it is absolutely essential that you find a mentor. So what exactly I mean by a mentor? A mentor many times is defined as the person that you're going to be working in a lab with for several years, and then they're going to be putting their brand on you and you're going to move on. The type of mentor I'm talking about today is a different type of mentor. This is a mentor that is going to help you with all the questions that you have as you start a career in science. So how do you get started? How do I choose a lab? What field would it be, would I be best suited for? I like everything. How do I choose the right path? What if I change my mind? Is it going to be look bad on my resume? Can I actually change halfway through my doctorate degree or my master's degree? What if I change mentors too many times? Or how do I change labs too many times? What are the different pathways? What are the different levels that I can achieve if I actually want to do science as my career? What would it be like to do a couple of years in one field and then move on to another field just because I want to learn different techniques and I want to learn different things? What skills do I need to become a professor or a scientist at a pharmaceutical company or a professor at a research institution? So there's many things and many questions that you're going to have, many barriers that you're going to come upon, and so you have to have somebody to guide you. So a mentor is going to help you navigate through all of these mess. Is going to answer, hopefully, many of your questions, not all, but many of the questions. A mentor is going to be more experienced than you, so they probably have been there, done that. So they're going to be able to have more of an insight as to what kinds of things you are going to be facing so that they can help you. They also have more expertise, so they are more knowledgeable in certain things, in specific fields or in specific realms that you want to explore. So for example, you may have somebody that is working in industry, or you will have somebody that works in academia, and you want to know what the differences are. You want to ask us enough questions so that you can actually make up your mind and figure out what you want to do for yourself. A mentor is also going to be your advocate. It's somebody that's going to support you, that is going to inspire you, that's going to motivate you, that's going to really have your interest at heart. Is going to provide you with opportunities. Is going to also keep you to your goals and make sure that you are responsible with what you're doing with your career. Is also going to help you build a network, and that is very important. So I'll come back to that in a minute. So mentors come in a lot of different sizes and flavors to meet a lot of different needs that you will have. So mentors can give you a pedigree. If I say that I went to Dr. Efrain Mitia's lab in NYU, well, people are going to know that I did work in serotonin. That was my pedigree. I then went on to do a postdoc with Dr. Ken Keller. Well, Ken is known very much in the field of nicotinic receptors. So people actually associate him with a specific field of study, and therefore I'm immediately associated with that field as well. So it's very important that we choose to work with people and to find mentors that are well known in their fields, people that are well published, people that are out there that have a lot of connections, that have a lot of potential networks that we can actually be a part of as well. There's a lot of times that we find peers to also be mentors for us. So I had several peers when I was when I was a graduate student. I had a lot of friends that were in different labs other than my own lab. And they were probably a year, maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years ahead of me. And these people actually helped me navigate not only through graduate school, but then they were really the ones that propelled me into trying to finish up and get out and find a postdoctoral fellowship and help me figure out where I could go for information about that and how I should prepare and what kind of questions I should ask and how should I negotiate for a salary, things like that, that people have already been there, done that, and they can actually provide you with those type of skills. I also have mentors that gave me a lot of technical skills. I have mentors that I wanted to learn how to use echocardiography. I went to the University of Maryland, and several people there actually were able to help me learn how to do that. I also did several I did several stints on different laboratories learning how to do anatomical dissections, how to use animals for different behavioral models, etc. So I always find people that are more knowledgeable than me in certain skills that I can actually acquire, and they help me get better at those. Mentors can also see what's ahead and have the ability to tell you that, you know, there's going to be something coming up, you know, why don't you apply? I have received this different emails regarding fellowships. Why don't you put in an application? A new grant is coming up. Why don't you start, you know, thinking about it, et cetera, et cetera. There are also mentors that help you balance career life. I started my family late in life. I was already a postdoc. And so many of my peers that were coming behind me were asking, so when do I get started to have a family? When do I find time to get married? When do I have time to do all of the things that I have to do as a graduate student? And so many of those questions I was able to answer them, and, you know, assure them that life goes on, and it's really not a matter of when is the best time. It's just when is your time, and you have to balance things because it's going to be a lot of responsibility to have a family, to have a career, to have a house, a husband, or a wife. But you know, eventually you figure it all out. It gets to have its place. There are also mentors that guide you and help you achieve career goals. When I wanted to apply for a position as an assistant professor, I had several of my network mentors help me figure out how to do it. Some of them wrote letters of recommendation for me. Some of them were able to give me some insight as to what the institution I was applying for was like, and what I should be looking for, and what I should be asking. And then, of course, like I said before, the mentors that will actually help you put together your network. So what is the responsibilities of a mentor? First and foremost is to get to know you. They need to really know who you are, what you're capable of, and where you're going. They need to keep you grounded and focused. That's the responsibility, because we're going to be very broad in our goals. We're going to be thinking about 1,000 things at all times, and they need to keep us focused. They give advice. They don't give orders. They give you the freedom to explore different options. They guide you. They don't lead you. And again, you know, they're going to be there to improve your skills, to cheer you up when you are successful, to train you if there's a need for training, to motivate you, to keep you working hard, and to inspire you. Mentors don't make decisions for you, and they don't tell you what to do. You have to do that. You have to make the decisions. You're going to be using your mentors to give you options, to give you advice, but at the end of the road, it's really up to you who takes the plunge. So as a mentee, your responsibilities are then to write down your goals, either with a pen or with your mental pen. Do the research. Look at different opportunities, look at different options. When you're ready to change from one level to another, you have to be educated, you have to be prepared, you have to be the one that looks for all of the potentials, because you're the one that knows you best. And so you are the only one that knows where you want to go. Perhaps not just, have door A. I tend to tell most of my students, you want to have also option B and perhaps even option C. And that's okay. There's no problem with that. There's always going to be opportunities to perhaps even get more information on other things that you never even considered. So always have your options open, have your mind open. Ask a lot of questions. That's what your mentors are there for. So ask them questions, ask questions that are going to clarify for you what the pros and cons are when you're not really quite sure. Keep the mentor informed if you make decisions, because that is also going to help them figure out where your mind is and where you're going. Make decisions based on knowledge and information, and of course, be open-minded. The mentees don't hold the mentor responsible. Like I said, we can give you all the knowledge and all the wisdom that we have, but at the end of the day, you're the one that has to take the plunge. My motto is have as many mentors as you can possibly have. Again, because there's mentors for different things and different parts of your life and different career paths and different perhaps opportunities that you want to seek and things that you want to do with your career. The career is something very malleable. It's absolutely wonderful at the point where I am, to find that it's not just teaching or just doing research, but now I can do a lot of other things with this career of mine. I can teach students how to do how to get mentors, and I can teach them how to find and build networks, and I can go and talk about how to build a lab in a small budget, or how to negotiate for a position. Different mentors will provide you with different expertise, and so the more the merrier. So your network is going to be very important. So let's talk a little bit about networks and what they are. So having a network, it's absolutely essential. Just like having a mentor is important, having a network is going to basically be the foundation from where your career is going to grow and it's going to develop and it's going to be built. It's going to be the network that holds you accountable, but it's also the network that holds you when you fall. And it is important that you build it strong and steady and with the best materials possible so that it doesn't falter. You need to do research and you need to publish. And there's nothing better than to have a nice broad network of people that you know in your field that you can then collaborate with or that you can ask questions about. This network is going to be essential for you. It's your window to the world, and you want to make it again as strong and as broad as possible. It is also extremely important to start building that network at any level, but specifically at the point when you will have decided that science is going to be your path. Start, building a network. The more information, the more people you get early on to be part of this network, the more they're going to be able to help you move forward. So how do you create a network? Well, there's no better way than face-to-face, truly. But sometimes it's very difficult because of the distance from where you are to where other people meet or where other people are. It is sometimes very hard to make connections within your own local institution. Maybe you're isolated in a small rural town, or maybe you are in a very difficult place to travel or difficult place to get out of. So you have to be able to form networks, even though you're not going to be able to meet face to face. But if you have the opportunity to meet face to face, this is the best way to do it. So how do you do that? So you go to meetings. You go to meetings of the field that you are most interested in. I'm interested in neuroscience, so I go to the Society of Neuroscience meetings, and I go to the Society of Neuroscientists of Africa meetings. I go to the Federation of European Neuroscientists Society. And I try my best when I go to these meetings to not only bring some information about who I am. For example, if I'm going to present a poster, I bring small 8x10, copies of my poster, or my CV if I'm going to be looking for a postdoctoral position, or if I'm going to be looking for collaborators. I want to be able to give them some information about me so that they can take home with them. So that's very important. But more than anything, just walking around posters and listening to people talk, try to then engage them, try to talk more in depth about what they're doing, what they're showing you, what they're talking about, and then invite them over to come and take a look at your poster, at your research, at your presentation, so they can then find that they have, potentially similar things that are of interest to you, and there might be some potential collaborations there. When we are students, we tend to stay back, and we feel that we're not ready to get to talk to professors or to talk to people that have been in the field for many, many years. I actually found that many of these professors are much more willing to talk to young students because they are fresh, because they're new, because they have some interesting questions to ask, because it is so incredibly rewarding to be able to help somebody that's coming up the ladder, that's coming up from, at their first level, to guide them, to help them, to even ask them, what it is that they want, where they want to go, what they want to do. Sometimes the answers are very unique and very interesting. If you get to know people, if you get to meet them, keep in touch with them. Don't let those connections be destroyed. The reason I say this is because a lot of times people go, they, go through a lot of posters, they go through presentations, they introduce themselves, and then there's no follow-up. There's nothing left but a card that sometimes we don't even remember who gave it to us. So make sure that you write an email after you meet somebody and say, oh, I met you here or there, and we talked about this and that, and I really was very interested in what you said about blah blah. Would you please, share some information with me? Could you please share more resources with me? Could we, have a little more of a deeper conversation about that? I would really appreciate your time. Sincerely yours, blah, blah. It is very important that you keep people in your network connected, and let them know what you're doing and where you're going and where you want to go, so that at any point, any of them can actually help you. They'll jump in and do so. So how do you create a network? So again, many times people give their business cards. Make sure that you write down at the back where you met this person and what you talked about before you give it to them, so that they understand and they remember who you are. Again, send them an email if you had a conversation with them. An 8x10 copy of your postage is always useful. And put everybody in your network list. So the classical network is, you can meet one-on-one, perhaps somebody from your own institution, perhaps your own mentor that you're just, beginning a conversation with. From there, you move on to having a broader network, perhaps within your institution, people from different laboratories, people from different fields. It's always useful to know, if I'm a neuroscientist, I want to know the people in psychology, I want to know the people in social sciences, I want to know the physicians that are treating, people for drug addiction, because that's the interest that I have in my research. And so I want to create a local network. That's very important. From there, you can actually, start networking with people from other institutions, perhaps within the same city, perhaps not, perhaps, across the country from where you are, perhaps even, to other continents. And that is always the most rewarding, to have people from different countries be part of your network is absolutely gold. It really is. And then, you have created yourself a group of people that are linked to you by various reasons. And this group of people is going to move with you and is going to be your support system and is going to be part of your career development plan. I also said before that having a network with people at other institutions across the globe is absolutely important. And a lot of people say, so how do you do that? How do you actually get to build a global network? I start by basically meeting people at the scientific meetings where I tend to go. You would be surprised how many of them are actually not local and they come from other countries. I also found over the course of my career that there are many, many, many societies around the world that also have interest in the field that you want. So there are neuroscience societies all over the world. There's one in Nigeria and another one in Uganda and another one in South Africa and another one in Ghana and in Senegal, and there's just so many of them. So why not join one of them? They're just as interested as, to hear what you have to say and the type of research that you're doing as you're interested in knowing what they're doing and what they're all about. So join one of those international societies. Sometimes many of them have funds that can actually be given to students for the purpose of being able to travel to those society meetings. And volunteer. Once you're there, volunteer, become part of the society. Make sure that you can get a student position in some of the committees. All the committees in these societies, by the way, love to have student volunteers because the students give us the perspective of the students, and they are the ones that we are going to be forming. They're the ones that we're going to be bringing up, to become scientists. And so we want to know their perspective. Join committees. Join committees for any of the societies, the local societies, the national societies, the international societies, there's nothing more rewarding than to be in a room with people from different parts of the world. I can tell you that. I've done that, and it's fantastic. So, how do you build a network if you're not going to be there in person? And one of the things that I have found is that, you know, in the past 20 years, we have actually seen an explosion, of course, of social media and social media platforms. And there's so many, there's hundreds of them, actually. And these platforms allow you to connect with other professionals. They open doors to places that you cannot go. They open doors to places that you cannot be in person. There's going to be a lot of work that you have to do in order to be able to really try these social media platforms and get as much as you want from them as you would if you had a one-on-one. But it is absolutely worth it, and I think that everybody should be, you know, in social media platforms to not only form networks, but also to showcase your accomplishments, your publications, your interests. How else is the world going to know who you are and what you want to do and what you've been doing if you do not tell them? And if you cannot tell them, you know, face to face, then by all means, use social media to do that. There are platforms that are specific, for example, for neuroscientists. I'm going to talk in general about these platforms because I think that this is also very useful. So we all know many of these platforms, but perhaps you haven't thought about them the way I do. And I look at these platforms as my doors, the doors that are going to link me to the rest of the world. And so I have to be very conscientious when I use these platforms, what type of information I'm going to be putting in them, who is going to be my audience, what I want to say, and how I'm going to say it. And then how I'm going to use these platforms to advance my career, to advance my goals, to advance what I want to do for the rest of my life here on Earth. And so I, for example, joined LinkedIn a couple years back, and I was amazed how quickly I started getting people to send me emails and say, listen, I want you to join me in this particular venture. I want you to come and talk about this thing for my students, or I want you to do a radio show. Before I knew it, in a couple of months, I had already done a TV interview, radio talk show, and I have over 300 people in my LinkedIn. Now you will say, well, I have 1,000 or 2,000. I'm very choosy who I put in my LinkedIn because I want people that are going to look at my resume as a way of knowing a little bit more about me, looking at my profile, and find, in me somebody that they can, again, invite to give talks, invite to give seminars, invite to perhaps help them put together, a specific program for medical education. Whatever the case may be, I want to be very selective of the people that I'm going to be joining, because I'm going to follow them as well. I want to know what they're doing and where they're going, and maybe if there's something that they're looking for, I can actually provide it for them. If people want to look at my LinkedIn, it's open. Anybody can actually take a look at it, and of course, millions of people will be privy to what I put in it. So I'm not limiting my audience. I'm just limiting the people that I follow and the people that I look into. With Facebook, I actually must tell you that I actually opened a couple of, I've opened three different groups within my Facebook. One, because I want my private Facebook to be private, and then I want my groups to be selective and focused. So I have a group for my dental students, I have a group for my medical students, I also have a group for minorities in biomedical sciences, and I have a group for women in world neurosciences. And so every one of my groups is very focused and is very much oriented to telling people what they want to hear from me in terms of that particular field. But my personal Facebook is my personal Facebook, and that is for my friends and my family. And I don't share those two things. ResearchGate is a fantastic way of putting your publications on the board of science. Everybody can actually look at your publications in ResearchGate, and they follow you. And if your research is interesting enough, they will keep on following you. And every time you put a publication, they will read that publication, and then they would comment. And maybe if there's something that you want to do that's new and different, you can also put a comment in there as to, new field of study or my new interest. And people can also comment on that and tell you whether they have expertise or whether they want to be part of that or whether they want to collaborate. So that's, another way of doing it, and so forth and so on. All of these different online platforms are very, very useful, and they can actually help you, again, in different ways, find a network of same-minded or similarly minded individuals that are interested in what your skills are, but also are interested in sharing their skills with you to see whether you can help them. So each of those platforms will actually ask different things, and that's why I said before, you have to be very mindful as to who your audience is, how you're going to use these platforms, what type of information you want to put in them, and then be totally honest in all of these platforms, because otherwise you're going to get yourself in trouble. But you can be selective as to what information you put in one and not the other. And primarily it's because of the focus of the different platforms. In some of them, I can put messages. In some of them, I can find jobs. I can invite people to join me. I can put notifications out. I can discuss my interest and my new projects. And some of them, they just serve as a board where I can put news and I can give information for students, for example, or I can request certain things from people and see, who's interested in participating in whatever it is that I am up to at that point. Be mindful, be careful, but use them to your advantage. This is a very, very good way of creating virtual networks. So how do you create this network? So if you are going to be in these platforms, you need to figure out how you're going to present yourself. So if you were a brick mason, or you are an architect, you want to know how do people find me? How are they going to know what I do? How are they going to know my capabilities? So if you were a stonemason, you would actually probably put in your website your experience, your jobs that you've done, some consulting jobs that you have done, collaborating jobs with other masons or with other architects. You can put a list of clients, you can put a list of references, and photographs. Photographs can actually speak 1,000 words. If you show them what you're capable of doing in one photograph, you've said it. So, what kind of people are looking to network with you? What are the 5 things you want them to know about you? What would be a major skill that you want to market? I am very good at blah, blah. What is your biggest asset in science? I am a terrific dissector of rat brains. I am, and I am proud of it. And for that reason, I have collaborated with a lot of different people all over the world because they want me to show them how to dissect a rat brain into 75 different pieces, and that are anatomically distinct areas. So that's something I can market, and I can actually put it up there. What is my biggest what do you want to work for? Do I want to work for a large academic institution, or do I want to work for a small college or a small university, and I want to teach, but I also want to do a little bit of research? You have to be able to market both of those things in different ways, right? What type of work do you see yourself doing in 5 years? What do you see yourself doing in 10 years? Try to figure out a way to let people know who you are and where you're going, so that they can also, pitch in and help you get to where you want to go. What are you most proud of in your scientific work? Well, let me tell you. So, what do you want to know about me? I can give you my resume with all of my education, my research experience, where I have, been trained, my publications, all the lectures that I have taught. I can tell you that my field of study is drug of abuse, and I can also tell you that my focus right now is in mental. I have also been, like I said before, in TV and radio, and I have a ton of different experience, I guess, on talking about mentoring and networking. But what else do I want you to know? That I am a leader. I am in the executive board of a scientific organization. I am also in the leadership of World Women in Neuroscience. I am multilingual. I am Hispanic. I'm a mother. I am a mentor. I am a women advocate. I'm a believer in true diversity throughout the world. And I am right now studying and learning and developing into a medical educator consultant. And so that's another thing that I am capable of doing. So now you know everything there is to know about me. So what I have done is I'm trying to create a brand. I'm trying to create a brand of me, who I am, what am I capable of, what skills I can actually, give you that would be useful to you. And please, call me, let me know. I'm here, I'm available. That's what scientists are all about. We want people to know who we are. We want people to know what research we're doing. We want people to know what questions we're asking. We want people to know what new techniques we're going to, we're trying or we want to try, so that people can, pitch in and help us and, maybe even teach us a little thing or two if we're new in the field or if we're new in that particular arena. So create your own brand. You are your brand. You, the scientists, are your brand. So make the best of it. Put it out in the light to be the best presentation that you can of yourself. Okay, this is very, very important. So this is the end of my talk. I hope that I have impart a little bit of my wisdom onto you, and that if you have any questions, please make sure to ask them. I will also be available, by email. So any questions, please let me know.
Yeah, thank you so much for this wonderful talk and for being a great mentor for many African neuroscientists, and particularly women in neuroscience in sub-Saharan Africa. Actually, I'm here with Anwar and Maha and Inas, and I'm sure they have some comments or questions before we get some questions from the audience. Anwar, do you have any question or comment? I don't know if Anwar can hear me or not.
Thank you very much, Professor, for... Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you very well. Okay.
Professor Marta, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Thank you very much for the interesting presentation and sharing your wisdom. I have some points to highlight on mentoring-mentee relationship. Sometimes there's poor chemistry between both the mentee and mentors, and some professors are hard than they are tough on the way they treat students due to their busyness or fame or whatsoever. So how can people deal with this situation?
So this is the dichotomy of what I was talking about, right? Well, where you're working under somebody's grant or in somebody's laboratory, that type of mentoring is very different than the type of mentoring I was talking about. But how do you deal with difficult mentors? The best way to deal with them is to be the best person and to be very professional, and also do not, let their high level impinge upon, your persona. I think that everybody should be treated respectfully. I think that no matter who you are, you deserve to be treated, with the utmost respect. A mentor that does not respect you is not, to me, a mentor. If they hold you up to high standards, then try to come up to their standards. I think that it's going to be more useful to you than you think. I know that when my students bring me their first draft of a paper or their first draft of their dissertation, I have red marks all over them. I have made students cry without even wanting to. Am I tough? I don't think I'm tough. I think I'm fair. I think that they come back and they say, "Oh, but you don't like anything." I said, "No, I liked it a lot. I just think that it could be better." And so they go back, and I have a student who saved 14 of her, drafts to me of her dissertation. At the end of the day, I think it was the best dissertation she could have produced, and it was fantastic. But you also have to be, as a student, I think, a little, tough around the edges when it comes to not taking things personally. Mentors tend to be rough, but sometimes it's because we want to hold you to a higher standard than you're willing to hold yourself. And again, I'm talking about mentors that, want to push you harder, but they're still respectful. Okay, they're still respectful. If the person is not respectful, then you have to have a conversation regarding that, and just basically saying, I don't think that the way you're talking to me or the way that you are treating me is respectful, and I would like to find a way in which we can work together to work more, professionally. You have to have that conversation, and I think it's tough for students to do that, but you have to have it because it's not in your best interest to let people trample over you. You have to learn how to defend yourself, and you have to learn to take the consequences of that, of course, as well. Did I answer your question?
Okay,
I hope I did.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much. So there is another point on when the mentor put the load on the mentee's shoulder, assuming that he or she will learn more by giving them assignments. That's part of his or her research work.
Yeah, and that's not uncommon. Professors tend to have a lot of things that they have to do. They have grants that they have to submit. There's money, especially if they bring in money for people to be able to do not just the professor's work, but their own work. So you have to yield a little. In many cases, they have you in their labs because you are going to also, help them in some way to move those grants forward. If that's the only thing they want from you, then that's a problem. But just to help them in a particular small project, I think that's very useful to you too. I mean, you learn new skills, you learn new techniques, you learn something different. That's part of the training.
Okay, so my last point is how to track the outcomes, how to measure the students' advancement.
How to what? I'm sorry, I cannot.
How to
Can you
track the
repeat yourself?
outcome. How to measure the students or the mentees' advancement, the progress.
How to measure it?
How to track it.
How to measure it, is that the question?
Yeah.
So how to measure advancement? So I am very hands-on with my students. I am the type of professor, I want to meet with them on a weekly basis. I want to know what they're doing and where they're going on a weekly basis. I want to know what experiments they're running. I want to ask them questions to see if they know what they're doing and why they're doing it. And I want to then look at their data and see how they would interpret it without me telling them, my interpretation. I mean, it's to be a mentor in a lab is to train people to think like you, but not necessarily identical to you. You have to develop their skills to be able to do things on their own. But at the same time, you need to teach them how to do it properly and how to do it well. So I'm very hands-on with my students, especially in the first 2 years. Perhaps in their third and fourth years, I'm sort of a little bit more lax, but definitely once a week we meet with the rest of the students, perhaps even more frequently. There's also a very important thing there, and that is that if I get to meet with the group as a whole, then students learn from other students, and that is very useful. So we tend to have perhaps also we have a journal club once a month, and in the journal club, either one of the students is going to be presenting the journal club, and then others can actually discuss, or they can ask questions, or they can perhaps also, present papers that are telling them the totally different things, so that there's a discussion going on. And that also helps the students not only feel that they belong to this one group, but also that they're learning from each other.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Maybe, can you hear me, Inas? Inas, do you have any comment or question before we go to Maha? Inas, can you hear me? Okay. Maha, do you have any question? Because I can't hear Inas. Or do you want to ask some questions?
I have a comment and a question, but I think I can hear Inas. I don't know. Okay. I will start while Inas is getting connected. I want to thank you very much for this very interactive, nice session. I felt it ended too soon, you know, like I felt like it was I needed to hear more and more about your experience, because I think it's really a very rich experience. So thank you very much for your presentation.
No, thank you.
I have two questions. I want to ask you, because we are aware that mentors are really very important for every student, and it makes life way easier and shorter. But I want to ask you about, like, from your experience, because I'm sure you have been approached by many students, either from your lab or from outside other networks. What were the most convincing approaches for you, apart from the scientific publications that the students may have, or the scientific contributions that they have? Like, you think if somebody did a specific approach, it will be more convincing to the mentor than another student, because mentors have limited time and they will pick specific students to get their mentorship. So I'm wondering, what do you think about the most convincing approaches?
Are you talking about students that have specific skills?
Yeah, like you have been approached by 5 students and you need to pick 2 of them because you don't have time for the 5. Who will you pick?
That's a difficult question, because I actually like to look at the whole person. If it's somebody that doesn't have a lot of experience publishing, but it is very skillful in different types of techniques, that would be very useful. And then, then I will actually be more focused on getting them to develop those writing skills, because I think that it's essential. I want my students to be able to graduate with at least 1 or 2 publications, and perhaps even writing a grant. That's very, very important to me. The type of students, I love students that are just motivated, and they just talk and breathe science, and they love to ask questions, and they seem very eager to learn. Some of my best students have not been the most prepared or the most the ones with the best grades, but some that have come with the best questions and the best willingness to go the mile to do what it takes to become a scientist. So they would sit and read and read and read and ask lots of questions, to the point of me saying, okay, enough, enough. Go back and write your questions down so we can talk about them in at another time, because they're just eager, and I love students that show passion for science. I'm very much attracted to students that ask questions, right, Mosab?
Thank you very much. I have another question. Is
yes,
also
Maha.
from a student perspective. Like,
Yes.
if a student approached 7 mentors and he's just beginning his scientific life, so he cannot prove that he's good enough, and he had been rejected by those people, 2, 3, would you share with us your experience in telling them 1, 2, 3 that how to deal with those rejections? Because I think disappointment is the word for many students around the world, and I want to know what you can tell them about how to deal with rejections if they contacted many mentors and they didn't get the answers that they expected.
Yeah, so it's very important for everybody, like I said, to learn how to build a little bit of a thick skin. If I reject a student, it's not for personal reasons. I don't think that I would ever reject a student out of just I didn't like them. I think rejection is imminent. everybody in science is going to experience rejection multiple times, whether it's your paper that gets rejected, or your grant that gets rejected, or your your application to a specific lab that gets rejected. Please do not ever take that personal. It really is not a reflection on you. It's more likely a reflection on what the professor is looking for at that particular moment in time. I know I get a lot of letters and emails from students that want to come and join my lab. Well, it depends on how much money I have. And if I don't have money, I'm going to have to turn them away. And it kills me. But I do tell them, at the present time, I do not have a position, and I don't have the money to fund you, or I don't have the money to provide you with what you need. Maybe next time, or maybe another time. Funding right now is so difficult. Even in America, it's very, very difficult to find funding for research, and so it's not reflective on you. It's not you who they're rejecting. It's just that they have to be very choosy on who they pick and who they take into their labs. And you just have to keep on trying. Don't ever give up. I mean, it's your dream. Fight it. Go for it. Just keep on pushing. Keep on working. Keep on getting new skills and new ways to sell yourself. If you don't have papers and they all rejected you because of that, then try your very best to collaborate with somebody and get a paper out, even if it's just a review paper, even if it's just a small communication. But you have to learn to take it all in and just move on and see what kinds of things you can do to help you, to help propel yourself. Learn new techniques, learn new methods, write grants. Even if you don't get those grants, just the writing process is very helpful. It's going to be a very useful skill for you to do, because it focuses you. It makes you think of where you want to go, what kinds of questions you want to ask, and how to move that forward. I'm if I had money for every student that has actually wanted to come into my lab, I would probably need 3 buildings, because I would not be able to get as many as I wish I could.
Thank you very much. This was really very informative. I go back to Mosab.
Inas, can you hear us? Inas?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you clearly, Mosab. I wonder if you can hear me too.
Yeah, now I can hear you. Okay, so
Hello,
if you have
do you
any
hear me?
question, please go ahead.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to really express my gratitude for Dr. Dávila, because the presentation was very inspiring for me. I really I found it very interesting on many terms. And I wanted first to reassure on my take-home message. And I found it very inspiring talking about creating your own brand. It's not only about your academic career or your career itself. It's about addressing all your interests. I wonder if the voice is clear.
And it is, because it's all about you, and you are more than just your research, right?
Yeah, but sometimes I feel worried about not looking very professional, because when you address those extra academic or extra career qualities, I was like feeling anxious about looking not so professional, So if there is a standard approach to implement those extra academic interests, to develop your career, to support your career rather than
right.
it, okay. And also, I have one question for the. This is one point, Dr. Dávila. Another point is for expressing your qualities.
I cannot hear what she was saying.
This is my first point.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, can you say it again,
Yeah.
Inaz?
I was speaking about another point. Yeah, about selling your qualification. You said that when you are developing your CV, when you are presenting your qualification, like in platforms, social platforms, and professional platforms, when for the junior researchers or junior professionals who do not have like very impressive qualification or experience, do you think that it's right for them like to use like terms like leaders and excellent in that skill or that skill? Well, that might not reflect the true situation in this.
I am so sorry. I cannot understand
That's all.
Okay.
what you are asking. Mosab, can
So
you?
I think the second question is how to be in, if you are not in a strong position because your qualification or you don't have enough publications, how to build a good network, or how to find a good mentor. I think the
So,
question is
What's
something
the
around
right
this.
expression?
so find your passion. Find what makes you tick. Find what you want to do in your research career, and find the people that are doing that right now so that you can collaborate with them. You might find that they may have money for the summer, and you can go to their labs and work in their labs for the summer, and have a publication with them. You have to build that network, and that network is going to then provide you with collaborators. It is not an easy thing to do, but you have to try it, and you have to keep on trying it. um, you have the ability to contact anybody in the world. So try it locally. And if that doesn't work, try it within your country. And if that doesn't work, then try it globally. It is very important that you seek out people that are going to people that you want to work with, people that you think are going to provide you with the skills that you need. And if they turned you down, then find another. And if they turn you down, then find another. And you will find somebody eventually that is willing to help you. It's not I'm not saying it's easy, but it is possible, and it is definitely something that all of us have to do, and all of us have to try, because otherwise, we can't do our work. We cannot do research the way we want to do it.
Okay, actually, we have many questions from our audience, but you already have answered most of them. So I'm trying to be as selective as possible. So one of the question is how to maintain a strong relationship with your mentor.
With your mentor?
Yeah.
So keep them informed. If you are in their lab, of course, you can interact with them on a regular basis. If you have left their labs, I tend to send them an email every once in a while, or call them and say, hi, this is what I'm doing now. How are you doing? You have to. There's a saying that says, it takes two to tango. So if you forget about them, they're gonna forget about you. So you have to keep them posted. You have to keep them in the loop as to where you are and what you're doing. And there's nothing more rewarding to me than to hear where all my students are and what they're doing next, and what they're up to. I want to say something else that I did not mention on the question of whether when you have a really sort of tough mentor. If the situation is tough, I think that one of the things that you should do is find another mentor within your institution that you can talk to, so that they can give you some advice as to how to handle that particular person, especially if this is somebody that they know and it's somebody that they can even talk to on your behalf. So find advocates, find other people that will help you. If the professor is a subordinate, for example, of a chair of the department, then maybe the person to talk to is the chair of the department, and tell them, it's a situation that is unpleasant, and how should I handle it? And they're supposed to also be there to help you. And if that doesn't work, just keep on moving up the ladder. You are a student. You are there to learn, and you are there to get knowledge, get wisdom, get skills, but you're not there to be trampled over. So you have to advocate for yourself and find a network of others that will help you move forward.
Yeah, so thank you so much. Another question from Yasin: how would you choose a supervisor or mentor who would support you as a postdoc to become an independent researcher or PI?
So one of the most important things that I did not learn until I actually was in my second postdoc, it is very important to talk to the people in the labs, or people that have graduated from those labs, and ask them before you join them, what kind of a mentor is this? Is this a mentor that is going to, let me go at the end of my 4 years or 5 years? Or is it somebody that's not going to provide me with the skill set that I need in order to move forward and be independent? That's a conversation that most people in the lab will actually be, willing to talk to you. And I'm talking about, people that work with a professor, people that know that person. You have to choose wisely. I think one of the things is, I hear a lot of students say, well, I'm already with him and I can't move. There's never such a thing as I cannot move. Never, ever, ever. It's your life. It's your time. You want to spend your life and your time the best way possible. You want it to be productive. You want it to be positive. You want it to be a great experience. You do not want to suffer through 4 years of somebody that you cannot even talk to, or that you don't have a good chemistry with, or that you're constantly being belittled by. You want to make sure that you work with somebody that is going to give you the assurance, the motivation, and the challenge to be the best person that you can be, but that is going to be very respectful of you. So I would never suggest to stay in a lab where somebody is abusive, or somebody is not professional towards you. I think that is something that is just not, in my world, not advisable. But having said that, I think sometimes as a student, we need to take a little of the rough and tumble in terms of their expectations, because we are, again, training you to become a better person and a better scientist. So if I'm going to expect from you, to be able to write papers at the end of the first 2 years, I need you to read, and you're going to need to read a whole lot during the first 2 years, so that you can be a better writer later on. But I'm not talking about expectations in terms of giving you a lot of work. I'm talking about, if somebody's not respectful of you, you should move on.
So Ahmed is asking if it is helpful to have a mentor out of your field of research or expertise. I mean, someone not from the same area of research. Is it helpful to have a mentor from
Absolutely. Absolutely. I collect mentors. I have a collection of mentors for a lot of different things in my life. And having different mentors have helped me immensely, because I can bounce off ideas from one, and again, the type of mentor I would like to be is the mentor that is going to advocate for the student and is going to prepare the student to be a better person. So my point is, if they need mentors for other things in their life, go for it. So yes, find as many mentors as you could possibly have. Collect them.
Okay.
They're priceless.
I feel like there is some sort of mixing between supervisor and mentor from the questions and the comments of our audience. So would you elaborate more?
So a supervisor can be a mentor. I had certainly I did my PhD with a mentor that was my supervisor as well, but he was also very much involved with my career development, and even to this point I still have connection with them. I've also worked with people that were more just not so helpful in some ways to my career development, but they did teach me a lot of skills, and they taught me a lot about the topic that I did most of my research about. But do they have to be the same person? No. But do you want to choose a supervisor that is a mentor? Yes. my point being, you want to work with somebody that is going to be looking after you, that is going to help you and teach you and provide their knowledge and wisdom to you. Is that the only mentor you should have? No, never. You should have as many mentors as possible. Can you work with somebody that is not necessarily a mentor type, but just a supervisor? I would say that you can do it, but if you have other options, I would choose the other options.
Yeah.
A supervisor is so important to your life. It's 4 years, and I talked about a little bit about pedigree, right? So if you're going to train with somebody that is really tough and difficult to get along with, but they're going to propel you to the best, position ever after you're done with them, then weigh your, the pros and cons. If this person is going to be difficult and nasty for 4 years and you're getting nothing from them, why bother? If it's somebody that is going to be helping you because they are well known in their field, but you hardly ever see them. I have had students that say, I never see my mentor. I work with the postdocs or I work with the technicians. I would say it's okay if you want the pedigree, if you want the stamp of approval that you work with this particular person, but do make an effort and make a point to meet with them at least every 3 months or so that they know where you are and what you're doing and move forward. Many scientists are shy. They're not necessarily the most social people, and you would be surprised how many mentors that you think are not willing to talk to you would be more than willing if you come to them first, as opposed to them asking you for something. So be smart, be proactive, and be wise with your mentors. And again, it's your life, it's your choosing, and choose well.
Yeah, okay. So also, is it possible to ask your mentor, not your supervisor, to write a letter of recommendation for you or a reference letter? Or also, is it possible to put him or her on your CV as a mentor?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have always asked my mentors to be the people that write some of my letters of recommendation. They're the ones that know you the best. Why would anybody that doesn't know you, write a letter for you? You want people that know you and that can speak of you on a more personal basis. So yes, absolutely. It depends on the job, of course. I have have mentors that don't necessarily are in my field of study. So maybe I will not ask them for a letter of recommendation. I will ask, you know, the other ones that are more in my field to write me a letter of recommendation if what I want is a new job. But you can put some of your mentors down. Yes. So, you know, again, you have a basket full of mentors. Choose wisely which ones you're going to use for what.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't think we have another questions from our audience. So I just would like to remind our audience that this webinar will be in our YouTube channel, Sudanese Researchers Foundation YouTube channel. And also, I just would like to tell you that we are looking forward to have Professor Marta in our neuroscience series. So we would be more than happy to have you again and again in our next webinars. And I just would like to, on behalf of the Sudanese Researchers Foundation and Trend in Africa, to thank you so much again for this wonderful talk and for your time and for being a great mentor. And I want to thank all our audience and also our co-moderators. And bye for now.